Like they say in Devil Wears Prada, a million girls would kill for your job. So how did you get your job?
So I was like crazy person who sent her assistant emails. She was so fed up of seeing my name in her inbox that she said, you know what, fine, come. When it comes to all of this, I don't stick to the book. It's also very tough to survive because you get 3 seconds of someone's attention.
Like doing the masterclass of branding. Instagram Reels.
Really fun. On the internet, especially today, I think the audience is not stupid. I think they're looking for honest communication. I think they're looking for something that they can resonate with. And the easiest way to do that is
Edition 2.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Mentor Monday's second edition. Like always, we are here to create a direct dialogue that allows budding professionals to deep dive into the minds of young achievers. During this lockdown, fashion magazines and publications have been trying to come up with innovative ways to both create their covers as well as connect with their customers. But to me personally, no one has made a stop and stare, or should I say stop and share, the digital covers like Harper's Bazaar. Their 2 for Joy campaign was breathtaking, path-breaking, and truly innovative in every sense of the word. Today, Mentorica brings to you one of the brains behind this campaign. Till July, our mentor ran all the digital strategies from covers to features for Harper's Bazaar. She was also the consulting editor for Brides Today. She has since gone on to become the digital consultant for the legendary fashion designer Tarun Tehliani and the up-and-coming brand Son. So I personally can't wait to welcome and understand the brain of this mentor who can truly influence the masses and dictate taste. Please help me welcome your mentor for the day, Ms. Ravneet Kaur. Hi.
Hi, Ridhima. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for having me. That was a very, very, very generous introduction, I must say.
You're so sweet. No, seriously. All I want is for everyone to learn from your expertise because having seen your work, it's exceptional. So who better to break down the following topics for us? First, how to get a job at a fashion magazine. Second, 3 tips that will help us build a digital strategy for a brand. Third, how to build a brand perception. And fourth, what is the future of fashion magazines in this digital world? So let's just jump right into it on a cliche note. Like they say in Devil Wears Prada, a million girls would kill for your job. So how did you get your job? And what would be your advice to those who are looking to work in a fashion magazine?
Honestly, I think the way I got my job is actually quite a funny story. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I had never worked at a magazine before. Bazaar was my first editorial job, so to say. And I'd worked at Satyapal before that, at Coovs.com. I'd worked for a fashion tech startup at the time called Roposo. And one day I sat and I was looking at my CV and I said, okay, I know what happens in a brick and mortar setup. I know what happens in e-commerce. I've even worked at an app. So I kind of understood those points of communication. But then I said, what about a magazine? Because for me, I think in my 20s, I love how I say in my 20s, I've just turned 30. But my point is that, when I was much younger, I used to always think that, okay, at some time when I'm grown up and I'm 30, I'm going to, I want to be a brand consultant. I had no idea what that meant. It was just a cool job in my head. And so at some point when I'd done all of these jobs and I was thinking about what next, and I said, okay, I've covered all of these various verticals. The one thing I'd not touched was a fashion magazine. And it so happened that there was a post to open at Bazaar. And initially I really wanted to only write. So I said, okay, let me just try for that. And so at that time, Bazaar's editor was Miss Nonita Kalra. So I wrote to Nonita. And I just dropped her an email and she got back to me saying that, we don't really have, they did offer me a writing position. And at that point, I didn't want to join full time. I wanted more of a consulting gig. So just in conversation, we went back and forth. And I think I followed up with her for almost a year. Like I was that crazy person in her inbox who would drop her an email once a month without fail. And she's one of those she was one of those diligent editors that always replied no matter what. So that, yeah, and I was just like, okay, she's responding to me, I'm going to keep talking to her. So I was like, crazy person who sent her these persistent emails. So I think by the end of it, she was so fed up of seeing my name in her inbox that she said, you know what, fine, come to the office, let's meet, let's chat. So when I went in and she says, why don't you just do digital? Of course, if you want to write, we'll get to that. But why don't you just do something fun and digital? So I said, okay. And that was the time when Bazaar was doing basic things on digital, but they hadn't experimented a lot. So she said, okay, you know what? Here's the magazine. Tell me what you'd like to do. And I said, let's start. We started off as just like doing a small project to see if it would work, if I would fit in, and if there was space to do something like this also. And we thought we'd try that out for 2 or 3 months. But by the end of the first month, I think my name was on the masthead. So I was quite happy. So that's actually how I landed my first job. And I think that has been by far one of my favorite jobs till date. Nanita is an incredible mentor, and she's a legend, you know. And I think, like,
yeah, coming to the second part, sorry to cut you, but how could somebody else as well get a job at?
You know, I think just write to the editor, write to the assistant editor, or if you want to work in a particular team, write to the beauty director, write to the fashion editor. You know, DM them on Instagram. It's not a bad idea. Obviously, email them. I would always say maintain a professional way to do this. Email them and keep your emails short, concise. Send in links of your work. Whatever makes it easier for them to look at the communication you're sending to them, and they can look at it in a short period of time, and you can explain who you are in a concise manner, the higher chances of you hearing back. And also just be honest, because, you know, these are people who have been journalists for years. They read a lot, they know what's going on, so they can see through the pretense. So I think the more real you are, the higher your chances.
I completely agree. And be consistent. She did it for a year after having so much work experience, right?
Yeah, I was a crazy person who followed up every month.
I think it's brilliant. That really speaks to your level of focus. But yeah, that brings me to my second question. This is something I want to learn personally from you, seeing your work. Because if you could give us the top 3 tips that could help us build a digital strategy around a brand, what should we keep in mind? What would be your tips for us?
You know, here's where I think I'm going to differ from most people's answers, because I don't stick to the book. I don't even think I've looked at a book, you know, when it comes to all of this. I think for me, we'll go into the other part in detail, but I think once you know who you are and what you want your brand to say, once you've defined that, then stick to it. You have to keep repeating it till people understand. Not everybody has the time to think about you. And, you know, the thing is, our smartphone now, while it gives us all that real estate, it's also very, very tough to survive, because you get 3 seconds of someone's attention. Think about it. When you're just scrolling, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, anything, even a news app or a magazine app, anything, you're scrolling, you don't look at something for more than 3 seconds. In the history of marketing, I don't think it's ever been harder to capture somebody's attention. You know, words and visuals have never been as important as they are today. So I think that you first have to figure out who you really are. And this is the one thing that I think I will always say, and I've always said before, is just be honest about it yourself first. That, you know, this is who I am, this is what my brand ethos is. And it's okay if you don't know completely who you are, but figure out like some broader, some broader outlines that, okay, these are the few 5 key values that my brand should have and should talk about. Once you've established that, you can move on from there. The second thing would, of course, be repetition, because you have to consistently tell people who you are without boring them. You can't just drone in the same tone of voice. You have to change what you're saying, but your messaging should be the same. And even though sometimes to yourself, because you're looking at your own content, right? So you get very bored, this is too much, I can't keep saying it again and again. That's what a lot of people say. But what you don't realize is that while you love your product, you're not your own consumer, right? So the other person is never going to remember so much. So you have to keep repeating so that when they spot something of yours, it comes to them naturally, But the last thing I will say is keep it simple. The simpler your messaging is, the easier it is to understand, the higher your level of resonance will be.
Yeah.
People will remember. You always remember the simpler things. So I think these three things, if you just nail these three things, your strategy will be strong. There's no way.
It's like
It
putting
won't.
the masterclass on branding, like a quick note. So
Yeah.
that brings me down to building brand perceptions. You're exceptionally good at it. What would be your advice to us?
When it comes to building brand perception, it is very similar to your digital strategy. I find that, now your digital strategy is more or less you building your brand. It's very
Yeah.
hard to kind of make those two things different entities, right? But I think, of course, honest communication is number one when it comes to anything, if you ask me. But I also think is taking advantage of what you have in and around you. Make the most of your own resources to kind of help build that brand perception. Um, you don't need to throw a lot of money at your marketing budget to have an exciting brand perception. I think what people really enjoy today is seeing real content on the internet, especially today. I think the audience is not stupid. I think they're looking for honest communication. I think they're looking for something that they can resonate with, someone or something they can relate to. And the easiest way to do that is just literally by keeping it real. So when you show the way you're building your brand, that helps people have a good perception of your brand. Let's just take the example of young designers. I think India as a country, if we were to ever go out and shop, we are so lucky because there's so many young men and women today who are doing such phenomenal things. And for example, this jacket, basically, this is my baby sister's best friend's label. It's called Apps, and it was started by Apurva, and she was also like my little sister. She is supremely talented. And she was just one day, she was just like, I'm so sick of not finding perfectly nice tailored western outfits that are simple and just something that we would wear, but I don't want to pay 80-90,000 rupees for it. I want someone to be able to afford it, but I still want it to look luxe. And she makes the most beautiful clothing. What I love about her brand is that she's kept it so simple. She's organically reached out to whoever she had to reach out to in terms of helping her build it. Her campaigns are things she's shot in her house. It's not like I'm giving a real life example because it's easier to understand. Campaigns are things that she's shot in her house. She's used her friends and family, and she's just built her story around that. So if you start organically, if you start in an honest manner, I think that kind of brand perception lasts you much longer than something very contrived does.
Figure out who you are and go ham just telling people about it.
100%. Unapologetically so.
Unapologetically. Agreed. Those are amazing tips. But one thing I would love to discuss or understand your perspective on is the future of fashion magazines. Because I personally, ever since Instagram came into the picture, I haven't gone out or subscribed to any fashion magazine in so long. So where do you see it heading?
This is a very tricky question, which I think a lot of people try and answer. But I think I have like a few. I think in my head there are a few scenarios, and now we'll only know how they've panned out as we see how life works out. But in my head there are a few scenarios, and one of them includes, of course, fashion magazines really upping their game on digital. Content has their storytelling is becoming stronger, more relevant conversations. Also, a lot of these legacy brands like Bazaar, Vogue, all of them, they only hire the best in the business. So these are people who've had years of training. These are people who are very talented. So the kind of brains behind these magazines are mostly unmatched. So I think that if you also bring, I also think, and I actually heard this at a live on Instagram very recently. Someone said it. Someone put it across very nicely. They said, bring out the team that is building the magazine. Use them as influencers as well. And in a different sort of a manner. And that kind of really resonated with me. So it helps build the brand, and it also gives a more authentic take on the brand. But I would also say that I think just powerful storytelling. I think the basic of any company which is producing content, for it to do well is powerful storytelling. And I think magazines do that really well. They just have to um, push themselves harder in that manner, and the only thing is that your turnaround time on digital is much faster than a print magazine. And I think a part of print will survive. I'm very, very positive. It's just going to turn into beautiful coffee table books, and those coffee table books are going to be maybe bi-monthly, maybe once a quarter, or maybe even once a month. Maybe that part will survive, but they'll have a very different, they'll be very luxurious. They'll be more luxurious than what they are now, but I also think that between the coffee table book scenario and between just telling the right stories online, I think that's basically what will set them apart.
Those were extremely important insights and have given me a lot of food for thought. But now I would love for the viewers to get to know you a little more personally. So I know you're an early riser, but along with that, do you have any daily habits or rituals that help you ensure a productive day?
So, I do make a lot of to-do lists on my laptop and on my phone, but I think there is nothing more satisfying than to write down your to-do list and then angrily or happily strike it out, tick it or strike it out, whatever you need to do, because I think that's just a habit that I've had for a very long time. So, and I think my most productive days happen when I've had a really productive morning. I think my brain is the happiest and it functions the best in the first half of the day. So I do a lot of my thinking work then, to be honest. And then I try and actually schedule all my calls post lunch. Because I feel that in the morning I can sit and work on strategy, I can research. So I just like to sort of work by myself where I don't have to chat a lot, because I think I'm functioning at an optimum level then. And of course, then post lunch, when you're kind of feeling a little bit sleepy, you're like, okay, I'm done with this day. If I have all my calls, then it's just so much easier for me. And then of course, I'm kind of prepared for the next day, because then I have my next morning free. So I think I just sort of like to organize myself better. And sometimes when I think that my days, especially because we're working from home now, sometimes when I think my days are becoming too monotonous, then I'll make sure that I plan either going and seeing my mom for a cup of coffee, or socially, in a socially distant manner, meeting a friend for a cup of coffee, or something, simple and easy like that, or plan an errand these days that takes you out of the house. So just like that's what I've been doing recently to kind of break the monotony, because after a while, you miss being in a conference room, or you miss being at a shoot all the time. You miss getting on a flight and going somewhere else for a shoot, because it's just you and your laptop. And as much as I love digital, I also love real 3D life, so I miss that part. So I just try and kind of give myself those breaks, because if I don't, then I think I start getting very bummed out about the situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I completely agree. That's a brilliant routine. And now I want to know what's on your feed. What kind of content do you consume? Like Instagram, books, movies, some recommendations for us.
Fashion, for sure. Like a bunch of fashion. Okay, my favorite person on Instagram is Eva Chen. I love her. She is incredible. I love her. I want her job. And I swear to God, it's my dream job. I love it. I love her. I love how honest she is, and I love how real she is,
I want to be her.
So I really enjoy her content. And another person whose journey I've enjoyed is Tina Craig. So these two people for sure. Back home, there are so many handles, I don't even know where to get started. But and also, like I told you, Refinery, of course, Business of Fashion. And but closer to home, I literally follow all my friends and colleagues, and they are my manual to life. I don't believe in books, like reading books to learn about work and things like that. Of course, you need some technical knowledge, so one needs to know that. So I think the reason why I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some really exciting campaigns is because for me, it is my friends, my families, my colleagues, my mentors. They are my walking, talking manuals to life and to work. And I don't think the secret to a perfect campaign is in some research, is in technology, is in a lot of ad spends. It's not. It's what you wake up with every single day. It's how you eat your food, how you hug your friends, how you chat with your mom. It's in all of that. So I think the best campaigns are those that come from within. So I think for me, that is more than anything for me, I think that's more than any Instagram feed can possibly provide.
A very, very new take on what's on your feed. Basically, that question is meant for content. So it's both digital content, but also real life content. Observing what's happening around you, not being just in your head or on your phone, but seeing real life. That's beautiful. But now I'm going to take you into a section called the rapid five, right? Like a rapid fire, but our little take on it, throwing 5 words at you. Respond with the first thing that pops in your head when I say these things. First word, fashion magazines.
My Bibles.
Your Bible. Style.
Personal.
Third, Instagram Reels.
Really fun.
Yeah.
I love them. I think it was like they're just so goofy and silly, and they let you have fun, and it's a very non-serious way to have fun and have a video, and there's not much pressure, so it
Yeah.
takes the pressure off. So I like
Influencer.
very cool. They have a lot of courage, and I have a lot of admiration for the amount of hard work they put in.
True. Fifth, new normal.
Not something I love, but something I'm adapting to. You know, I want my old normal back. But yeah, new normal. Don't love it, but I'll get there.
Just before you leave us, although I don't want you to leave, could you give us a little mentor mantra, a word of wisdom or encouragement to people who would want to follow a similar profession like yours?
I think that don't take yourself so seriously. Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't take the internet so seriously. It is, at the end of the day, just a way to communicate. So if one campaign fails, another one will do better, you know, and you have to try, and don't be scared to experiment, because otherwise you're just going to be a huge bore that nobody's going to be interested in. I'm sorry to sound so harsh, but you have to have fun. Also, I think I would just say have fun. I would say don't take life so seriously. Don't take digital so seriously. If you have fun and if your brand sparks joy, there's no real competition then.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed and learned from this conversation. And everyone else, I hope that was the same for you. I hope you got to learn something, got some new insights. And in case you have any questions for our mentor, please leave them in the comment section below. And like always, we'll see you next Monday. Till then, keep growing and keep learning. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.